Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the Pit Strategy Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff.
And I am Matt.
And we just want to welcome you as we cover the historic weekend, another running of the Monaco Grand Prix. It was both an exciting race and a boring race all at once.
I would disagree on the all at once part, but
all in 75 laps.
It was a roller coaster.
It was a bit of a
roller coaster with two hills, one at the front and one at the very end. And then it was just like a flat line in the middle.
It was a lot of that, yes, for sure. Well, it was good to see another running of it, and our congratulations to Charles Leclerc as the winner of it. The Monaco curse is now broken.
It is gone.
Which is very much a long overdue thing. But we'll get into that in a minute, and as we cover it in the debrief. But let's start with the dispatch. All of the news from this week or two, give or take. Starting it off. We don't speculate too much on rumors outside of the tinfoil hat party, but this one seems to be gaining a whole lot of traction, and it appears Sainz has narrowed it down to two possible teams. He's apparently keeping Audi on the back burner to join Nico Hülkenberg, but he is apparently seriously considering a move to Williams, of all people.
I've thought about that in the past. I think he deserves better than a Williams seat. For one thing, I think it's just disappointing that Mercedes didn't look his way.
Right.
They had their sights on Max for way too long.
Right. And I think they're still waiting on Antonelli to come up. I think he's supposed to have a 3-day test this week at Canada in the car. So I think they're pretty well dead set on taking him as a rookie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is different from what they've done in the past as far as rookies go. They had George, 3 years at Williams?
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, glad to see them try new things, but honestly, unless something changes over at Red Bull, I can see Sainz being a prime candidate for Checo's seat.
It's possible. If not this year, maybe next.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
Well, you're right. I think he is too good of a driver for Williams. It is good to see Williams at least trying to shoot for something big. And I don't think they would be making that offer to him if they didn't expect big things out of their car the rest of this year and into next year.
Sure. My biggest question for Williams is how do they plan to pay the man?
Well, they cleaned up an Excel spreadsheet. Somebody probably made them do a budget while they were at
it. We should put somebody in the. Have you seen those Excel World Championships?
Yes.
We have to just manipulate a spreadsheet in some form or fashion. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but the Microsoft Excel World Championship is a thing, and I'm pretty sure Williams employees would excel at that.
Maybe they can earn a little extra prize money to pay Sainz when it's all over.
Counts.
Or maybe they're ditching the Mercedes power unit and they got a cheaper deal from someone else. They're saving money on the engine next year.
Also possible. Yeah. That's very possible.
Futuristic newsflash, they chose Renault. Yikes. But no, that was, I think, the biggest news coming out of Monaco, that he's basically narrowing it down to two choices. It's either Audi or Williams, and I think it's just going to come down to, he knows who his teammate's going to be on either side. They've already signed Nico Hülkenberg over at Audi, and Alex Albon has re-signed at Williams. So,
and both of those I think are good teammate candidates for someone like Sainz.
Sure, absolutely.
Working with both of them, he can work well with just about anybody, but I don't think he'll really butt heads with either of those two.
I don't think so. I think either one would be a good one. Just what can the team offer him, and you have the unknown of Audi and the known of Williams, and I don't know, I can see both being scary when you come from the great legacy team of Ferrari and McLaren before that. He's had his pick of teams.
Yeah. It's just sad to see that no matter what Sainz does, it looks like wherever he's going to go is going to be a downgrade of some kind.
Or just a really good opportunity for him to really show his strengths in a potentially weaker car. So
also true, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. Speaking of Ferrari, one of the other news is that Ferrari has historically issued anything that's not a gas-powered engine. They don't believe in all electric. They'll do hybrids, but they won't. They've kind of said, we're
The horse should pull the car, that kind of stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, it should not be a battery, but they have apparently hinted at dipping their toe into Formula E.
Interesting. I wonder if
apparently they're-
HP's going to pay for that.
Hmm?
Is HP going to pay for that?
One can only hope. I mean, I'm sure there's maybe a little conflict of interest there. The company that owns or that builds the Formula E car is owned by Fred Vasseur.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a little bit of conflict there. But
Yeah, I can see that.
but
Yeah.
I mean, if you could get the Tifosi on board with Formula E, that's a huge boost to Formula E's popularity.
Oh, yeah. And
So-
I'm pretty sure that's going to be one of the biggest aces up Ferrari's sleeve when trying to get into that.
Yeah, for sure. So it'll be interesting to see if they show up there. Yeah, other news. McLaren pulled off the, I don't want to say hat trick because they didn't win them all, but they pulled 3 second-place wins in the same weekend. They had Oscar Piastri came second at the Monaco Grand Prix. Pat O'Ward took second place at the Indy 500.
Right.
And then Jake Hughes with Arrow McLaren took second at Formula E in Shanghai, all in the same weekend, all within like 30 hours of each other. They all took second.
It's a helmet trick right there.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is, the helmet trick. So it's just real impressive stuff from McLaren this weekend. They definitely...
Across the board, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They've sunk the money into R&D and good team development and all of team leadership and great drivers, and it's clearly showing off. And,
Yeah, and it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon, at least for F1.
Yeah, agreed.
They're the team to look at for the next coming Grand Prix in Canada.
Yeah. Norris and Piastri are definitely in fine fighting form right now, and it's good to see. It's fun to watch, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah.
So that was all the news I got. Did you come up with anything else?
Not really. Yeah.
Okay.
Aside from, Monaco itself, it was pretty quiet.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into that. So yeah, this week was the crown jewel of Formula One motorsport, the Monaco Grand Prix in the Principality of Monaco around Monte Carlo. You want to start with the incident at turn 1?
Yes. Turn one of any Grand Prix is precarious, but Monaco especially, it's a harsh right-hander that leaves
so narrow.
it leaves no room for error with one car, let alone 2 side by side. So going for a gap is a huge gamble and almost never pays off, as Kevin Magnussen has figured out. What's crazy to me is that he tries to send it to a gap that, as one of the top 20 drivers in the world, you should know that gap's going to disappear.
Yeah.
Because it was a right-handed wall that turns to the left a bit. And yeah, he thinks he can squeeze around Checo, or that Checo's going to give him that spot. When you're in P18, P19, you don't fight there.
No.
Yeah, you survive back there.
Yeah, if you're Haas, you don't fight Red Bull, especially back there.
Right, exactly. And yeah, and to top all that off, the only reason that they were back there was because their DRS was too long.
Yeah.
So they got penalized for that. They got put to the back. Somehow Checo qualified P18, which is a red flag for him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's something you really need to be worried about when you're qualifying an 18th in a Red Bull.
Yep. That Red Bull especially.
Yeah. I mean, we all know it's way more catered to Max, it's very front heavy, and Checo's not keeping up. But this is the most concerning result that we've seen from Checo this year.
Yeah, agreed. It was, I mean, 2 races in a row, he started further back considerably than Max.
11th at Imola, if I recall correctly, and then
something like that.
At Monaco. So, yeah. We've had 3 big names qualified from near the back of the pack. Lewis Hamilton did it, then Alonso, and now Checo.
Yep.
So that whole combination of ingredients created this recipe for disaster at turn 1.
Yep.
That took out Checo, Magnussen, and Hülkenberg. Zhou was smart, seeing that coming. He had the foresight to slow down and just let all that happen in front of him. So good on Zhou. Then a little further up, you have Oscar Piastri and Sainz duking it out again.
As they seem to keep doing.
They seem to keep doing it. I don't know what it is with them. But yeah, Oscar causes Sainz to have a puncture, which pulls him off the side of the road.
Yeah, right there in front of Casino Square. He had to hit the runoff.
Mm-hmm. So that I thought the red flag was going at first. I was like, what happened to him?
Everybody did. In fact, that's what all the F1 TV cameras were focusing on.
Right.
Was that they missed the actual crash live for back up the
The
field.
photographer that got hit didn't miss it.
No, he did not.
Glad he's okay too.
Through that.
And then, of course, there's the two Alpines going into the tunnel. I don't know what made Esteban Ocon think he had any kind of a gap there. Not even a go-kart could rotate that hard on a turn like that.
I'm surprised how much air he got when he got hit.
Oh, I mean, those tires, they can send you. They're like catapults.
Jeez. I was watching Gasly's onboard, and yeah, he just completely almost hopped over Gasly's front end. I was like, holy moly, how much air did he get? My first thought was, how fast was he going? I'm like, you can't be going faster there. So that just all the, I don't know what the term is, just the torque from the turning, the lateral force of that turn was enough to pick him up and do what he did.
Yeah. And Gasly had every right to be upset
Yes.
with Esteban because, okay, let's just ignore the fact that he ran into him. This is a team that at the moment had 1 point and had the potential for more.
Yep.
If they just drove smart. It's Monaco. Overtakes are not really a thing.
Yeah. You wait and bide your time.
Every time you wait for someone else to make a mistake. Oopsie doodles. My
It's
camera
broken. Yeah, you got to reseat it. There you go.
Okay, I am back.
You're good.
So yeah, you wait for someone else to screw up. And as a team like Alpine with only 1 point, every point matters.
Yeah.
So keep two cars on the field. Keep your cars alive. Don't fight each other.
Yeah.
They had to tell them that before this race started during the driver briefings.
Yep.
So Esteban must have just ignored all that. He must have just slept through that briefing. And I can only imagine what the debrief was like for them.
Oh my gosh, that had to be the most
French-sounding meeting.
It had to
I've ever
be.
heard.
Yeah. We know what came out of it. And we'll get to the aftermath and going into Canada here in a minute, but it is a miracle those two have not had an altercation in the paddock.
Oh, dude,
throwing hands.
They probably just keep them separated as much as they possibly.
They have to.
And the mechanics have to have a role where part of the job description is keep Esteban and Pierre away from one another.
Yep.
That has to.
Has to be.
Yeah.
I could see both of them leaving the team after this, or at least one of them, just not because of anything necessarily with the team, even though the team has issues, but just like, I can't work with the other one.
Yeah.
Playing the diva card, I guess. But no, it was an interesting race. So going back to lap 1, turn 1, yeah, K-Mag, definitely a bad move on his part.
Similar scenario. You're honestly Haas is a midfield team at this point, but points are still valuable. But being that far back, you don't race your points. You race across the finish line.
Right, exactly.
So you can avoid expenses like having both of your chassis totaled and move on to the next one.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, if you look at K-Mag's onboard, he even clips the wall trying to make it to that gap.
Yes.
He bounces off of it, tries to shoot past Checo, does what he does, and yeah, it's a whole mess.
Nico tries to brake and let the whole thing. Well, no, he doesn't brake. He tries to send it.
Right. Trying to get ahead of it. Yeah.
Right, and he just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a disaster there for Haas with 2 DNFs, and then obviously Red Bull with Checo not finishing at all. I think the biggest saving grace out of that whole thing is that accident saved Carlos Sainz's race.
It did, and more precisely, Zhou Guanyu saved Carlos Sainz's
Yep.
butt.
So we watched, and full kudos and credit to Julian Palmer with
Yes.
F1 TV for his analysis video a day or two after the race. Because when we were watching the race live, we both thought it was going to be either a standing or rolling start, but with the order that the cars were in at the time the race was red flagged.
Right, because the rule is every single car in the pack has to complete section 1 in order for the order to be established.
Right.
But Zhou never got past section 1.
Right. If you go back and watch the replay, Sainz has his whole issue up front. He drops to P17.
Yeah.
the wreck with Checo and the Haas's happens, and because Joe was at the back, he got held up by the medical car.
Right.
He was smart. He was played it safe. Doesn't want to get a puncture or damage or anything like that.
Yeah, because there was a lot of debris on
There was a lot of debris on the track, but because he yielded and waited when the race was red flagged, he had not completed Sector 1. And per the rules, if not everybody has completed Sector 1, it goes back. Well, you're just having all the camera troubles.
I really am. Yeah. I don't know what's up with that.
We're dropping everything, too.
Keep talking.
But yeah, he because of the rule of if not everybody completes Sector 1, they go back to a standing start with the original starting order.
Yes.
Which really saved Sainz there at the end. He was able to hold his, was it P3 position?
Yes. Yes, but podium.
After a run through the pits, change of tires and all that kind of stuff to, double check everything, start back to P3, and everybody was a little more cautious off the line.
Yeah.
After the restart.
Right.
Another interesting fact from the Julian Palmer analysis that I found fascinating was during the red flag, you can return to the pits and change your tires. That change of tire qualifies as your mandatory tire swap.
Yes.
So everybody switched back over to hards because Monaco's a low degradation track. Right. They're not going all that fast.
Yeah.
And like Charles Leclerc, he ran the entire race on that fresh set of hard tires.
Yep.
Several of them did, actually.
Yeah. Most of the leaders did.
Yeah. So that incident basically gave everybody a no-stop strategy, which was pretty fantastic, honestly. So I thought it was a good one. Well, you don't want to see a major crash. I think it made it interesting in that everybody's going to try to do this without stopping. It changes everybody's strategy, which leads to, again, anything can happen.
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
So, it was a good race. Like we said, the start was more interesting. The whole 70-something laps was a little dull. The order didn't change much. I think Valtteri Bottas overtook Logan. I think that was the only overtake.
Logan did overtake Joe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they swapped positions. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, Logan Sargent got an overtake at Monaco, but he did not DNF. Great.
He has now caused less damage in a season than Checo has. Checo is now officially the most expensive damage caused in the season so far.
Well, I don't think that's his fault.
True, but it's one of those things of dollars are dollars in the cost cap era.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, this is true.
So, but yeah, that was Monaco. Again, congrats to Charles Leclerc for taking a podium as home race. The man looked so happy.
He looked elated.
He was so happy.
He was trying to control himself with 2 laps to go, trying to keep from crying before he finished.
Yep. All the Ferrari garage, his girlfriend, like they were all just.
They got the Prince of Monaco getting on the champagne at the podium celebration.
Yep, hometown hero. They had the band playing, the Monegasque anthem and all that. It was something we haven't seen in, recent memory. In fact, it hasn't been done since the original.
Like 93, 94 years.
Something like that, yeah. It's been a long, long time. So it was definitely good for the home crowd to have their hometown son, because he grew up there right off the pit straight.
Right.
The bus stop right there is where he would get picked up to go to school, so he got to see that day in, day out as a kid. So yeah, definitely good for him. He earned that. Definitely deserved that win. It's good to see someone take that podium that has worked so hard to get there. He's definitely a case for working your way up from the bottom.
Oh yeah, because he didn't have rich parents.
No, he did not.
So he got there on merit and talent and connections.
Yeah, I believe the story is he started karting, worked his way into F3, did not have the money to make the jump from F3 to F2, and his mentor Jules Bianchi, who was somehow affiliated with Ferrari. I'm not 100% sure what his.
Yeah, kind of dig more into that.
Yeah, he was somehow affiliated with Ferrari as like a reserve driver, a test driver, or something like that. He was retired F1, I believe, in some form or fashion, but convinced Ferrari to sign him as a junior driver to pay for his career through F2, because he said, this kid is going to be the one. Like, don't let him fall away just because he doesn't have the money to compete. Sponsor this kid, get him up into the junior ranks, and they've sponsored him all the way up through his time at F2. Kept him on the hook while he was at Sauber for a minute, and then brought him on to Ferrari, and the rest is history. So
very well deserved.
Very well deserved. Very good race for him. So, looking forward, interesting little bit of news for Monaco next year.
Okay.
Friend of the show, friend of mine, friend of the podcast, Andrew Weaver, is going to be doing a whirlwind tour of Europe next year with his wife.
Really?
And he has on his schedule to be in Monaco during the Monaco Grand Prix.
I am jealous.
So we may have ourselves a foreign correspondent at this time next year. So fingers crossed he makes it over there, can get a seat, and maybe we'll get some live track footage from trackside down there.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, hope that happens, because that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah.
All right, anything else from Monaco?
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, I mean, it was full of glitz and glamour, as Monaco is. There was enough happening off track with all the celebrities and that kind of thing, but
all the celebrities that pretend to like racing.
They pretend to like racing or just like to live in Monaco because of the tax benefits. So, it is what it is. All right, forecast. Coming up this next weekend, we have the Canadian Grand Prix at, I'm going to butcher how this is said, Circuit Giles Villeneuve. Something like that. Otherwise known as an island in the middle of Montreal on the river there through Montreal. I've always thought it is actually one of the more unique circuits in F1, just because it is on an island in the middle of a major metropolitan area.
Right.
It just looks cool. But yeah, no, it's a historic one. Been racing there since 1978. It's 4.361 kilometers. Total of 70 laps, and unlike Monaco, it has 2 DRS zones.
It's fast.
It's very fast.
Speed straights with sharp
Yes.
turns.
That hairpin at basically halfway is...
And the final chicane can destroy you if you're not careful.
You know how many times I've been black flagged in F123 at that stupid chicane? I hate that chicane. That chicane is brutal.
Chicane.
Ugh. Current lap record is 1:13, 0.079, set by Valtteri Bottas in 2019.
All right.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fast one. I'm looking forward to it, especially with the high competitiveness of the top 3-4 teams with their understanding of their power units, and this is going to be a real good. What's the word I'm looking for? Preamble to other really high-speed circuits like Monza and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This will be where you test some of that low drag, high-speed
It'll
setups.
be a good preview for the rest of the season around summer break.
Yep, agreed.
Because we've got high-speed tracks, like you said, Monza, Zandvoort, Barcelona.
Yep.
So this will be a good way to see what these cars can do for those tracks.
Yep, it'll be a fun one. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And again, it's in a river, and just because of where Montreal is situated, weather conditions here can vary. It's kind of another one, kind of like Monaco. You never really know what you're going to get till you show up.
Sure.
It can be totally downpour during qualifying, and then the race will be dry, and you just kind of have to be prepared for anything. It's not one of the very predictable weather tracks that we have on the calendar. So, so who do you think needs to step up and perform at their top?
I'm going to say Red Bull again.
Yep.
For one thing, Checo needs to get that car under him. He just needs to figure out how to drive a front heavy car.
Yep.
He really needs to just go to Max's house, just do some sim racing with him.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I think that might be more beneficial for Checo than an actual race coach from Red Bull.
At this point, yes. I mean, 2 bad races that he's had in a row, something's got to give.
Yeah. I mean, like we just said, that car is built around Max.
Right.
So who better to teach you how to drive that car than Max?
Sure.
Now, will Max be willing to do that for Checo? I don't know. They seem to get along fine, but at the end of the day, your first competitor is your teammate.
Do you think that might be a little bit indicative of Checo is checked out? Like, he's not planning. I mean, Helmut Marko and Horner, and they all say, "Oh yeah, we're in talks with Checo because his contract's up at the end of this year."
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah, we've got him. We're going to re-sign him. Everything's going to be great. Checo's not saying anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's just like, I'm not putting my 100% in because I know I'm going somewhere else next year?
I can see that, although at the same time, as a racing driver, you would want to put your best foot forward if you're on your way out, the way Carlos is.
Yeah. But when your teammate is Max Verstappen, does it really matter?
Also a fair point. But no matter what you do, qualifying P18 in a Red Bull is not a good look.
That's also true.
So, one way or another, Checo's got to step it up.
Yeah. So, yeah, agreed. Red Bull's definitely... They've had 2 races that have been very lackluster, mediocre.
A lot of balance issues, a lot of tire drag issues.
Yeah. Hopefully they took this week off to, get in the sim, get that car back to the factory, take a good look at everything, pour over the data, let Newey do what Newey does while you still got him. But no, I agree. Definitely Red Bull. I'm also going to say Alpine has got to do something. Like, the car at Imola did not look terrible.
No.
Was it fantastic? No. Was it as bad as it had been? No. If you can just get your drivers to quit fighting each other, you might have a shot. Yeah. You might be able to put yourself in the top 10 repeatedly. Score a little bit of points. I don't expect, McLaren, Ferrari levels of points, but at the same time, given the struggles that Mercedes is having, you can fight Merc or Aston Martin at least.
Honestly, could. Yeah, Aston Martin has so many issues to the point where I think Alpine can definitely compete against.
If you can get your team to quit fighting each other and fight the other team, something could happen there. And I think Canada's a track they could pull that off on. They're heavy. They don't have the crazy straight line speed, but they seem to be doing decent corners. They were taking corners at Imola decently fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think for all of their issues they have with each other, Ocon and Gasly both understand that car decently well enough now that I think they could put it around Canada decently fast as long as they stay clear of each other.
Yeah,
I think they'll at least qualify decently close to each other. So, my money's on Alpine needing to make a big step forward. If they don't have at least one car in the points by the end of Canada, that team is in serious trouble.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That's where my money's at. Which teams and or drivers do you think are the most at risk going into Canada?
Teams at risk to just not perform well?
To fall from grace, if you will.
Fall from grace, yeah. I'm probably going to just end up seeing Red Bull again.
Yeah.
They've got to figure that car out. Well, Checo needs definitely to figure it out, but even for Max's sake, you got to figure the balance out on that thing.
Sure.
Or it's just going to look like another lackluster performance like Monaco.
It's really hard to win a Constructors' Championship when you've only got one driver putting it in the points. Even if he's consistently putting it, first place, you got to have both drivers scoring points to win it overall.
Exactly. And all eyes are going to be on K-Mag and Esteban Ocon.
Yep.
Just for one of them to screw up in the slightest.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think that those two just need to drive extra careful.
Yeah, agreed. They can't afford penalties at this point.
Don't do anything stupid. It's not so much what'll happen between the driver and the team. It's going to be the public perception.
Sure.
K-Mag is already considered a tyrant.
Yep.
Right now.
Viking.
Tyrannical Viking. And Ocon is just making himself look like a moron right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back if one of them scoops up at Canada.
Sure. I'd agree with that. I would also throw Aston Martin in the mix there. Fernando and Stroll both have not been... we haven't expected a whole lot out of Stroll. Let's be realistic. But at the same time, Fernando started the season off pretty strong, but ever since Imola, he's just
fallen off.
Yeah, just kind of fallen off. He struggled at Shanghai a little bit. I think he still put it in the points at Shanghai. But yeah, Imola, nothing. Monaco, nothing. So I would hope that, they've, again, like the other teams, they've taken the time, they've looked at that car. Fernando and Lance are, in sync. Big Daddy Stroll's greased the skids with whatever needs to be greased with money to make it work because this is home race for the Strolls.
Right. Yeah.
They have a corner named after him. So somehow.
How much that cost?
Lots.
As much as an F2 team? F3 team? There's F3? Yeah.
That he bought?
Frenchmen team? Yeah.
Yeah. Hard to know. But yeah, I think Aston definitely just needs to get their act together and attack it with the seriousness that they've had in the past. Feels like just something these last couple of races have slipped with them, and
Yeah, they've been complacent.
And there just hasn't been, at least for some of the other teams, when they screw up, they have issues like Red Bull. Max is very vocal. We know what's going on in the Red Bull garage when things are not working. Like,
Right.
We know. Same with McLaren. Same with Ferrari. Haven't heard anything from either of the Aston drivers. Mike Crack hasn't said a word. It's just kind of been radio silence on the Aston Martin front. So one can only hope that means good things. But time will tell.
Yeah.
We'll find out in a week.
So, with all that said, who do you think is going to take P10?
P10.
Last point.
I'm going to go with my boy Yuki.
Yuki? Yeah.
Yuki seems to be doing good things. I expect him P10, if not higher. But I think a P10 is a good, safe bet for him. Qualifying above and finishing above Ricardo. I could see Ricardo P13, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a safe bet.
Which, if I can say, the fact that F124's driver stats put Ricardo above Yuki is a freaking crime.
Yeah, I think the only reason is because of his experience, though.
Still a crime.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also pretty sure they crunched all these numbers before the 2024 season started.
Also probably true.
So we'll just have to wait for the first big driver update, the driver stat update.
Through that, yeah. Patch 2.0.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say Yuki P10. How about you?
Haven't given it too much thought, but I'm probably going to go Nico Hulkenberg.
Okay.
Yeah.
The safer of the two Haases?
The safer of the two Haases, the more consistent of the two Haases, and aside from, the whole DRS issue, he looked pretty good in Monaco. And he's looked good this entire season. He's gotten P10 before. Can't see a reason why he wouldn't get points again.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, this is a track I could see favoring the Haas setup. Again, you need a smart driver. Got to be cautious. I'm not saying that's not K-Mag, but at the same time.
They tended to perform better at the high-speed circuits this year.
Yes, agreed. That Ferrari power unit is tailored towards it. Their low-drag, high-speed setup has historically been pretty decent. So yeah, I can see Nico doing very well. He did great at Imola. He put it into Q3.
Yeah.
So they've got the speed. Now if they can just control it and not find the barriers for someone else.
For Magnussen, yeah.
So yeah, definitely. That's good. There is the one hope of if K-Mag wrecks it in free practice. That just means we get Ollie Behrman in.
Is he not showing up in Canada with the Antonelli? I could be wrong. I thought he was, but
he probably is, but he's still a reserve driver for Haas, so he has to be there for the race.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, so he should be there, I would think.
Yeah.
So,
it'd be great to see him get more practice in the Haas.
Yeah. So we know how he did in a Ferrari when Sainz was out with his appendix at Jeddah. Like, he did great. Now I want to see his performance in a Haas. I want to just see how the man does it too.
FP1 at Imola. At FP1 at Imola.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he practiced there.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he did pretty well.
Yeah.
Ayala Komatsu seemed to really like his performance. So
he might very well be getting one of those seats next year.
I think he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, definitely good for him.
So, top 5 drivers. Who do you got?
Top five for Canada. I'm going to go P1, Oscar Piastri.
Okay.
He wants it.
He does want it. Yeah.
He has been eating at P2 for a while, and while it's a good spot to be at, you don't want to sit there forever. And I think, judging by the way I've seen him fight the last couple of races, he's got it. Like, mentally, he knows what he's got to do. He's been taking it to Sainz. He's been taking it to Lando and Leclerc. Like, the last 3 races, whoever he's been up against, he has been holding them out for 10, 20, even 30 laps in some cases. The only thing that's usually failed him is penalty, having to pit, like the pit strategy just not lining up with him, I guess, where he'd like.
I'm willing to bet that if he hadn't had that damage from his little bump with Sainz at Monaco, he could have challenged Leclerc for a win.
I agree. I think he would have at least kept pace with Leclerc for the bulk of it.
Yeah.
Whether or not he could have passed, I mean, that's hard to say at Monaco, but if it had been any other track, it would have been a fair fight. I think it would have been a great fight. Yep. So I think Canada is one that suits McLaren's ability. I think Piastri wants it. They've given him the full same upgrade package that they gave Lando. There's no reason he can't take P1 at Canada, I don't think. So I'm going to say Piastri P1. I'm going to say it's going to be one of the Ferraris P2, I feel. I'm going to say Sainz. I think it's going to be Sainz. Max P3. I'm going to be real bold and say Fernando P4, Lando P5.
You got that much faith in Aston Martin?
I do.
Okay.
Considering this is home race for Stroll, I think the Aston Martin team's going to show up. I just don't think Lance is going to be the one they show up for.
Does anybody, do the fans even show up for Lance?
I doubt it.
Because he has fangirls on social media.
Does he? They're after the money.
He does. Yeah. He's got a fan base that for some reason defends him.
Disgusting.
But whether or not they actually show up to tracks to races is another story I wouldn't be able to tell. So,
and that does not equate to on-track performance.
No, it does not.
All right, your top 5. What you got?
Starting at P1, I'm going to go Lando Norris. I think he'll be able to pull some more experience out from under his belt to be more consistent, get better qualifying times, and just a more consistent and better overall race. I'm also going to put Carlos Sainz in P2. He looked very hungry at Monaco.
Yep.
And I think he also tends to do a little bit better at these kind of high speed tracks than Charles does.
Mm-hmm.
Just slightly. I'm putting Oscar Piastri P3.
Mm-hmm.
I see both McLarens on the podium somewhere. They're just on fire right now. Max in P4. And I'll put Leclerc P5.
That's a really good title fight right there.
Well, thank you.
My fear, and this is kind of unrelated, like we both don't expect Max to be at the top step of the podium. My fear is that he's going to try it too hard, and he's just going to send it into the wrong corner. He's either going to be P3 for whatever we're saying, or DNF it. Like, there is no middle ground for it. He either goes in the top 5 or he doesn't finish at all.
We also have to remember, though, that this is not 2021's Max Verstappen in the way that he hasn't won a championship yet.
Right.
He cares more about his sim racing than anything else. I mean, I know that's more of a joke than anything else, but it looks like he's almost got the mindset of, I've done all this. I've been everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he's going to have the competitive drive to send it every single time. He'll be patient. I think he's going to be more patient.
It's definitely possible.
He's going to take care of the car.
I was going to say, Red Bull's cost can't handle it.
That too. I'm pretty sure it could. But, yeah, they wouldn't want to.
I can just see Christian Horner walking around the Red Bull paddock going, I'm never going to financially recover from this.
I mean, he's got lawyers to pay, so.
Lots of lawyers to pay. Good grief.
Yeah. Did you see that there was this one commentator that they were zoomed in on Horner in the garage checking his phone? The commentator's like, oh, hey, he's checking his WhatsApp.
No, shots fired. It's kind of sad that Mercedes got the WhatsApp sponsorship and not McLaren, not Red Bull.
I mean, yeah, that'd be really controversial.
That'd be so funny. Although, Toto maybe like, hey, give me all the dirt on Horner. I've got it printed out.
I just sent you an email. With a diagram.
Oh,
I would not want to see that diagram.
I do not know. Nobody needs to see that. All right. Anything else for Canada?
No, sir.
tune in next week to hear our review on that. Race is at 1 p.m. Central Time, so we'll be watching that one probably live because it's in a time zone that is not at the ungodly hours. So yeah, definitely
just a rarity, but it's great.
I know. We like the North American races, dadgummit.
And we're gonna get more.
Yeah. So going to the traffic report, we both picked up F124 from EA Sports. What are your thoughts so far? We haven't neither of us have put a ton of time into it.
Now, disclaimer: we're both just console players. We're casuals.
Neither of us own wheels.
Yeah, no, it's that's an investment we haven't gotten around to yet.
Yeah,
but I am liking it. The way it controls, the way the car feels, is more involved.
Yeah,
you really got to pay attention to throttle input, brake input. It's more detailed than 23 is. Tire degradation is an actual thing in this game. 23, there was some mild degradation elements to it, but it's pretty even for all 4 tires. Whereas depending on how you treat the car in F124, you could have 3 tires that are at like 25, 30% degradation, and then one that's at like 5, 10%.
Right.
So way more involved. You got to really pay attention to the balance of the car. The atmosphere, like just the way the world feels, is better. If you try and take a corner while your car is in the grass a little bit, you're going to spin out. They did a really good job of pulling in all those little details to make the whole thing seem more real and involved.
Sure. Yeah, I took it for just a brief spin in the F1 World Car around a couple of the North American tracks, or North and South America tracks. And I was particularly impressed with how it handled around Interlagos in Brazil.
Yes.
So you start the race at Interlagos, you go out, you take a left, you got the pit exit that kind of snakes around, and then you get the first real big hair turn after the DRS zone there.
Yes.
That corner has always been, I felt, really easy to take at high speed, especially since you're coming out of a DRS zone. The handling model has really changed that. And so I was racing in the dry, and I came around that corner, and I felt the back end just kind of kick out a little bit. I was like, that's different. I've never felt that before. And there's like a grassy embankment there, and the same thing. If you end up on that grassy embankment, you're done. You're out. It felt a lot more realistic in that regard.
Yeah, no, depending on your traction control settings, that throttle input, the rears giving out can vary.
Right.
If you don't have traction control set up, you got to pay attention to your throttle, even more than last year.
Yeah, and I've seen some YouTubers who've just turned it off completely and turned it into basically Formula Drift. And it's nuts.
Yes.
How you control it, I don't know. But, yeah. So, no, I like what I've seen so far. I like the fan zone portion of it where you can actually work with the actual teams in real life. Mm-hmm. So as the actual Formula One teams and drivers perform, it unlocks specialty like goals and missions that you can compete in. You declare your interest in a team and a driver, and you can do unique goals, which gives you in-game rewards and stuff like that, which is a really, really cool thing because it links it more to what's happening in the real world.
Yes, and you can even vote on certain aspects of the upcoming Grand Prix. Like this one is who's going to get more points, Ferrari or McLaren.
Right, which I think is a really good stat to argue about.
Yeah. I voted McLaren personally.
I voted Ferrari.
Of course you did. What's up here?
Yes, absolutely. So
I would also say the driver AI is better.
Yes, much smoother movements.
Yeah, smoother movement. They're more strategic. They will block. They will put you in dirty air. They will go out of their way to make your race harder instead of just body blocking you.
Yep.
They still try to do that a little bit. Not quite as aggressively as F123s, in my personal opinion.
Right.
But yeah, the drivers just feel more alive.
Yeah. I agree. It's definitely a better look and feel for the whole thing. I enjoy it.
I'm not really sure what they were talking about when they said they were going to overhaul the career mode. It feels about the same.
I launched into it, did like the preliminary. I didn't actually race the first race, just got the team set up. It feels exactly the same.
It's just about the same. No complaints. I like the career mode, but I mean, I'm like, what kind of new things are you talking about?
Maybe there's more stuff down the line. Maybe the upgrade trees change or something like that.
Maybe if it looks about the same to me.
Yeah.
At least as far as I've gone.
Yeah.
I've gone 3 races in. Yeah.
I fully expect us to do a 2-player career, as we have done in the previous installment, and maybe we'll even live stream that so you can mock my foolish attempts at trying to keep up with him.
Oh, come on. Don't give me
Our last one was what? I was AlphaTauri, you were Williams?
Yes.
And that did not end well. I was technically higher than you in like the research tree. Like I should have had better performance, but our on-track stuff was very lopsided. You're a better racer than I am.
Just gotta give it time, man. You'll get there.
Hoping this handling model evens the playing field at least a little bit.
Only one way to find out.
Only one way to find out. All right, with that, we're going to roll into everyone's favorite segment, the tinfoil hat party. All right.
What do we got?
Starting off, there is a lot of rumors floating around the interwebs that, and that they're stealing this from a quote from Alex Albon pre Monaco, because he signed his renewal with Williams. And he said one of the biggest reasons he decided to re-sign with Williams was he got to look at the 2026 new engine regs Mercedes engine and was impressed. Do we really believe it's going to be that good?
I've heard the same thing from George Russell.
Yeah.
He's been talking about it too and bragging about it as well. They seem really confident. But they were confident about this year's car too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, we know that Toto Wolff loves his psyops.
I was going to say, this sounds like Propaganda 101 from the Mercedes HQ.
Yeah. I'm not going to put any money on it, at least not yet. I will hold my breath for the time being.
Yeah. I mean, we know that George has seen the same stuff that Lewis saw, and it was enough to make Lewis run away to Ferrari.
Right.
So take all that with a grain of salt.
At the same time, George is handling the Mercedes better than Lewis is right now.
This is also a true statement. So anybody's guess at this point.
Yeah.
Lewis's visit to Hot Ones, and the commentator asking, so what's been how did he word it?
Like, what's been the worst thing about the car?
Yeah. And he's like, everything.
All of it.
All of it. It's like, dang, Lewis. Yeah. Just go slide a knife into Toto's back wallet. Why don't you?
Yeah, and then you have at Monaco, there's footage of Lewis going up to one of the fan walls to sign autographs. Toto's riding the other way on his scooter, and Lewis just signing Ferrari hats. And it's just like, geez, dude. No chill from Lewis right now.
He is done. He is so done.
He's probably going to end up taking off his Mercedes merch and burning it.
Probably. You will never see that man wear a Mercedes anything again.
No.
Auction it off and then donate the proceeds to a charity, you know.
Does he own any Mercedes cars?
He owns one of their F1 or their hypercar thing.
Right, yeah.
But
is he? Well, that's from one of his older chassis, right? Back when Mercedes was,
the
competitive.
2018 chassis or something like that.
Yeah, he'll probably hang on to that just for old time's sake. But I don't see him carrying them. He doesn't want to see those silver arrows anywhere near him.
In fact, I'm sure Ferrari will give him a very nice something to drive around in. I mean, they've done it with Sainz and Leclerc. They both got very nice cars. Was it the GT36 or whatever they call it? Very, very fun car. I could see Lewis getting one of those. So
yeah,
they take care of their drivers.
Sure, that's just on the list for a Red Bull hypercar when that comes out.
Yeah, whenever that hits the streets.
Yeah, maybe that's what Checo's holding out for. He just wants a hypercar and then he's done.
I mean, that was Newey's pet project. So if Newey's on the way out, it may never happen.
Maybe. I mean, he's going to stick around and finish that thing.
Time will tell. All right, next up. Alpine threatening to bench a driver if the driver versus driver fighting continues in the Alpine garage. Who do you think gets benched first? Gasly or Ocon?
Ocon, 100%.
Seems to be the instigator.
Yeah, not only from this past incident, but just the way he's held himself post-race. He's gone online to say, I'm a professional, we all do our best here. I have a ton of respect for everybody. He apologized to the team, but not to Pierre directly.
Right.
And he's also say, we all make mistakes. We're not robots. Like my brother in Christ, no one's expecting you to be a robot, but we do expect you to be the top 20 drivers in the world.
Yep.
So you better start driving like that.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of decorum that has to come with that.
You're making mistakes that are only really acceptable in junior karting.
Sure.
So stop it.
Yep.
So yeah, the spotlight is on Ocon right now. I'm not saying that Gasly's perfect. He's made mistakes too, but he's the victim right now.
Yep.
And if you want to play really smart politics, you can continue to play the victim and probably end up getting rid of Ocon that way. But it's up to Ocon to make that mistake.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. It seems like Ocon's definitely the odd man out there at Alpine. Like I said, Gasly hasn't been perfect, but at least Gasly has not nearly totaled a car and, really instigated it with his teammate.
Pierre has painted himself as more of a team player, whereas Esteban has really alienated himself.
Right.
He's basically made his own little island, and nobody is allowed on it.
How stereotypically French.
How Napoleonic of you.
How Napoleonic. Yeah, I think Ocon gets benched before Gasly for sure.
It's not going to happen this week.
No.
Esteban will be driving in Canada.
Yes, the team did confirm that that both Alpine drivers will be taking the grid, barring anything happening between now and then.
I'm sure they're going to have their own little schedule of who's going to be on track when throughout all the practices. They're not going to be on track at the same time. They want them as far away from each other as possible.
Yep, absolutely. And there will be somebody on the team that is responsible for just keeping eyes on both of them, make sure they don't get within,
They will have handlers, yes.
Yeah, there'll be an Alpine restraining order between those two for sure. It's scary, but on a similar note, there is also talk of either Esteban or Valtteri Bottas going to Haas this next season. And apparently Alpine has been wooing Mick Schumacher to leave Mercedes to come over to Alpine.
I mean, for Mick, any opportunity to get back on track, I would take it.
I was going to say, it seems like Toto has clearly passing over him for that second Mercedes seat. So if I was Mick, I'd be like, you're not going to give me a shot. I'm going to go where there's an open F1 seat. And if Alpine is offering, Alpine's offering.
Yeah,
jump on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Along that same vein, I can't see Esteban in the Haas. I really can't.
I can't either.
Especially if Ollie Behrman is confirmed for a Haas seat. I think it makes more sense to put an experienced and calmer driver like Valtteri.
Agreed.
Over not a rookie, but a younger and more hot-headed driver like Esteban.
Sure. I'm kind of worried if this keeps up, we could see Ocon in a game of musical chairs being left without a seat and getting dropped or ending up as like a reserve driver.
I'm not trying to be a hater, but honestly, I feel like that's one of the better scenarios that we could have.
There's enough good rookies coming up that deserve a seat more than Ocon does.
Exactly. Yes.
So
I 100% agree.
Yeah, and I would like to see Schumacher, not just because he's Michael Schumacher's son, but I would like to see him get more track time. I'd like to see what is he capable of doing. You don't come from a legacy like the name of Schumacher and not at least be semi-decent in a car. But I feel like we haven't had a good wealth of opportunity to see that perform on track.
Yeah, probably not.
While I'm sure Alpine is not the ideal place to start an F1 career if you're Mick Schumacher, your father has a dynasty at Ferrari, for heaven's sake. But you got to start somewhere, and there's nothing wrong with Alpine to get your feet wet.
I can think of worse teams to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as a regular driver.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
And we talked about Behrman being a pretty much sure thing at Haas. Ayo Komatsu has basically said that he's been very impressed with Behrman's work as a reserve sim driver for them.
Yeah.
His performance at Jeddah was very fantastic. He's been doing support stuff in the Haas garage and Haas team for a while. So I think
he loves not just his on-track performance, but also his attitude,
yes,
demeanor. He's a huge fan of Ollie's work ethic and
Yes.
his ability to just take any sort of stumbling block that he's run into and just get up and keep going.
Yep.
So
If
I think that's
Behrman,
what I know is for right now.
yeah, that's what they need right now. They need that kind of consistency, especially when you've got crazy Danish Viking running around destroying things regularly.
Yeah, I agree.
But if Behrman takes one of those seats, you'll see me become a Haas fan and buy a Haas hat. Not on our show notes, but also something just kind of worrying. In the NASCAR world, Haas is pulling out. They're selling their stake in Stewart Haas Racing, and the team announced that unless somebody comes in and buys out the other half, they will be closing for good.
Yeah, Stewart Haas has gone out and said that they're stopping after 2024.
Right.
So yeah, like you said, unless another title sponsor comes in and picks them up, then yeah, the Tony Stewart side of the racing team will be shutting down, and it'll be the end. Which is really unfortunate because they've been around since 2009, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
and done pretty decently in the NASCAR world. I mean,
yeah, they have some championships. I believe. Yeah. It's been a while.
I wonder if if the whole racing endeavor is just getting a little too expensive for Gene Haas and Haas Automation, and they're just.
It might just be that he's spread too thin. Yeah,
it could be.
Maybe he just wants to either focus on F1 or just slowly step away from racing as a whole. Who knows?
And in continuing fashion of putting on the tinfoil hat in this party, it's an Andretti buyout maneuver. You heard it here first.
I'm okay with that. I am very okay with that.
I mean, an American outfit buying out the already American team sounds like it's already set in stone to me.
Right. Yeah.
It's a shoe-in.
They're almost there.
Yeah. And we will continue to beat the Andretti dead horse until they end up on the grid. One way or the other.
Yes. More America.
All right, next up. Can Monaco become entertaining again?
It's going to take work. They've changed the track in the past, like with adding swimming pool, for example.
Adding swimming pool, and they changed up the location of the chicane.
Yes. So, but you have to do way more than just add a couple of turns. You have to make the whole track bigger, which you can't really do, I don't think.
So I heard that via F1 Twitter that the FIA, the Automotive Club of Monaco, and a few other entities invited, I believe it was Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and someone else. I can't remember. Another driver. It might have been one of the McLaren drivers. I can't remember. But they're basically putting together like a kind of a steering committee, if you will, to basically say, okay, obviously this track is a relic from a different time. Sure. It's been kept on the calendar for historic purposes. Nobody passes. It's
more of a parade.
It is more of a parade. If the closest thing to an American analogy would be like, it's kind of like the All-Star game or the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
a Formula One. It's more for show than anything of substance. I mean, you win points and it's iconic.
Sure,
everybody wants to win one, but at the same time, you go into it once qualifying's done, you're pretty well confident that's where the race ends. You just got to survive for 75 laps,
basically.
So there is some interest in what can we do different? What can we change to maybe make it different? Change turns, change where things are located, maybe adjust it somewhat. So
being a fly on the wall in that sort of committee would be incredible.
Yeah.
If anything, just to hear Max say the most out-of-pocket stuff.
Oh my gosh. That would be the most unfiltered comments in the world.
Did you hear what he had to say about the race?
He wish he brought a pillow.
Well, yeah, when she brought a pillow, he said that he said that the race was boring. The person interviewing him, she was like, "Really? You thought it was boring?" And Max was like, "Did you watch it?" And it says, matter of fact, we look like, "Well, did you?" Interviewer just said, "Yeah."
Not gonna lie, this is the first race of the season. I watched the F1 recap in 30 minutes or whatever it was. I didn't watch the full thing. I watched all the free practices and I watched qualifying all the way through, but the actual race, I watched the 30-minute highlight.
Tisk. Honestly, I think that's the one race where you can get away with it.
I think so. And to be fair, it's like I don't enjoy doing it. But it's just like I don't have. My week was busy, and I was just like, I don't have 2.5 hours to dedicate to watching a race where nothing happens.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll just catch the recap. It will cover everything that's notable, and there wasn't a whole lot notable. Like it was 30 minutes, but it was a pretty dull 30
And
minutes.
Max had a radio call where he was pulling into the pit after the race was over, and he says, "Yeah, I had to go to the bathroom at lap 20. That was the most intense part of the race for me."
Yeah, I believe it. So, yeah, something's got to give, but what I don't know. There's only so much you can do in such tight, cramped quarters. With the cars the size they are,
Right, the cars are not going to change enough to make the race anytime soon.
Yeah,
they're getting a little narrower for 2026. Maybe a little bit shorter, I think, but nothing drastic enough to make Monaco an interesting race.
I think it should be done on go-karts. I say all these guys got their start in karting, put them back in go-karts, see how well they do.
Go-karts.
Yes. Tandem pedal karts. The teammates have to work together.
Yeah.
It'd be a disaster, but it'd be so funny.
I am so down for this.
FIA, you heard it here. We will consult. All right, and last up on the tinfoil hat party, Magnussen race ban when?
I feel like we've asked this question before.
I think we asked this last week, and then our last episode, and then he, did Monaco, which, for the record, he did not get penalty points.
He didn't. That's what blows my mind.
Yeah, apparently the FIA is super lenient on the first lap for any incidents like that. As we said, at every track, lap 1, turn 1 is always hazardous. So they were willing to dish out things. In fact, while they're pulling in the medical car to get them out, and all this stuff, they haven't even started cleanup yet. We got the banner ad of FIA, no further investigation. Everybody's like,
we're like, what?
Why?
Yeah.
So he got lucky, because if that had been any other lap, he probably would have gotten his penalty points and would have been banned for Canada. So he got very lucky.
It's utterly ridiculous.
But like we were saying, Canada is very high speed. There is a certain mentality on a high-speed circuit like that, especially with some tight corners, to just torpedo down the inside. Mm-hmm. And while K-Mag is not the biggest offender of doing that, he can be antagonistic when other people try to do it to him.
Yes.
And just get in their way.
That's where he gets in trouble, is defending
and impeding. He gets a lot of impeding penalties.
Yes, he does. Yep.
So
it's hilarious.
Yes, I could see him and pick the driver, especially down that tight hairpin that we keep talking about, going into that, because it's a pretty high speed thing. The braking zone is tight on that, and him just being like, "I'm just going to block you and impede you. I'm going to make an illegal defensive move," and getting the stewards after him. And I could see him
moving into braking, going into that hairpin.
Yeah, for sure.
That or the chicane.
I think, if not because he's got 10, he needs 12 penalty points to get a race ban. I could see him getting at least 1 penalty point in Canada, and then after that getting a ban, whatever the next race is.
Yeah.
Spain, I believe, is after.
Do you predict it happening by summer break or by the end of the year?
I'm going to go with by summer break.
Honestly, with the way things are going, I'm going summer break too.
Yeah. And he has not done himself any favors. There's a certain amount of, if the ref don't see it, it didn't happen type thing. And while there's a gazillion cameras and stuff on track and all that kind of stuff, the stewards can only watch so much. Unless a driver raises a concern, the FIA may not see everything. But because of his status now, I think the FIA probably just has one person who's just on K-Mag duty. He's like, your job is just to watch this guy. I mean, the fact that at Monaco, both of them got their wings checked, somebody at the FIA has got it out for Haas. Is watching Haas intently.
Did you see Gunther Steiner basically go on social media say he just posted a picture of a tape measure?
Yeah, he's just like, just measure the thing. Yeah. So, I think that's going to be the thing. I think somebody at the FAA and race control is basically saying, just watch the Haas guys. Make sure they don't do anything stupid. And K-Mag's not going to get away with anything.
There's a K-Mag guy. I'm pretty sure there's an Ocon guy right now.
Yeah. There's
maybe even a Stroll guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Maybe even a Sargent guy at this point. You never know.
Yeah. Especially with it being Canada, I think Lance is that's going to get to his head a little bit.
A little bit.
And he'll probably send it a little more than he usually does.
That could either work out really, really well for Aston Martin or end up with his car in the shop again.
My money's in the shop again.
Yeah, that's generally what happens. So hopefully he will learn from his teammate who has an abundance of patience. I would say Fernando's probably one of the most patient men on the grid.
Lance has had years to learn.
Yeah.
He should have at this point. I don't think he's ever going to learn from his
Probably
mistakes.
not.
No.
We will see.
Yep.
It will be an interesting weekend. All right, I think that'll do it for the tinfoil hat party.
Yep. The hats are put away.
What?
The hats?
Oh, yeah, our tinfoil hats are put away. But we shall now grab the other set of hats, the non-tinfoil hats.
I believe it is your turn with the activity hat.
Sounds good. There you go. Pass it on.
Driver versus driver. 2 drivers, 1 activity. We decide who's better. All right, driver number 1, Checo Perez.
Checo Perez.
Wait, did I go?
And driver number 2,
Nico Hulkenberg.
Checo and Nico, and the activity is Twister.
Huh.
Checo's shorter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nico's really tall.
Nico's actually pretty tall. Yeah, I think he'll have a disadvantage with his height.
Yeah.
Nico will. I think Checo will be able to use his shortness to have more reach. He'll have more options on that mat as a shorter man.
Yeah. I could also see Checo being the guy that you spin the little thing that picks what color and what lane you have to move where.
Yeah.
And landing like kind of on the line, and he arguing, no, that cannot be blue. It has to be red. No, it's clearly going towards the red.
He must be at all.
Yeah. Or he's just the guy that like, oh, Nico's foot is there. Stop. Just being an absolute, just like, like just because he can. So I'm not going to say Checo would be good. I think Checo would just be annoying to play against. I think Nico would win it.
You think so?
I think Nico
would. I'm going to go Checo.
Okay.
Really. Okay.
No point of peace. Fire away.
All right. Round 2.
Lance Stroll
Lance
versus Alex Albon.
Lance Stroll and Alex Albon. The activity is brain surgery.
Do we need to even have a discussion?
I can see Lance just going up to the operating table, scalpel, and then you just hear flatline. Yeah, Stroll does not have the patience for brain surgery.
He doesn't. I don't think he'll just like be stupid enough to just instantly kill his patient. He'll be the guy who like tries to walk around the surgical table and somehow bump it. And it just rolls down the hallway. Just rolls out the surgery room. Just rolls into the parking lot somehow, and gets hit by a car. So something dumb like that.
Some sort of slapstick comedy.
Basically, yeah.
I can see Albon being the guy who's like brain surgery. He somehow like gets the head open, like the brain is exposed, and there'll be like some sort of tool that gets used in it, and he like drops it in the head cavity. He's just like, what do? Just like get stuck there.
I can see Albon being the kind of guy to have his girlfriend come and help him, like a tag team sort of a deal.
She's a pro tennis player.
Golfer.
That's what it is. Pro golfer.
Yeah.
She probably is more detail oriented with her hands for that kind of stuff than he is.
Probably, yeah. He's Alex is also a pretty good gamer too.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So what I'm hearing is we need to get Alex. What's that? Is it Surgeon Simulator?
Yeah.
You need to see that on Twitch at some point.
The VR headset. Yeah.
Yes. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I thought I'd try that now. I might have to do that.
I do too. Yeah.
All right, one more.
So in case that wasn't clear, we are picking Alex Albon.
Yeah, we're definitely picking Alex Albon.
For the surgery.
Yes.
All right. Driver number 1, Valtteri Bottas.
Valtteri Bottas.
Versus Carlos Sainz.
Valtteri versus Carlos. And the activity is hide and go seek.
Ooh. Interesting.
I feel like Valtteri would lose. The hair
The hair
just stands out.
It's such a beacon. Yeah.
Yeah. The light hits it. It's
So
just like,
bright.
the beacons are lit.
I'll go calls for aid.
Calls for aid.
Switzerland calls for aid. Yeah, I can see that. I can also... Carlos would also, at the same time, he'd be the kind of guy to hide and then just start giggling to himself.
Yes. Just like evil chuckle.
Yeah, just a little... So the question is, who's more visible and who is more quiet?
Yeah.
Because have you heard the little Sauber ASMR videos that they put out?
Yes.
All three can be quiet.
He is very quiet.
Yeah.
He's very soft spoken. He doesn't have like a booming voice.
He does not.
Like there's certain drivers that just have like big personalities, like Danny Rick. Like that man is.
Oh, yeah.
You hear him coming before you see him, I'm sure. But then you've got a few that are just very quiet, and yeah, Valtteri Bottas is very very quiet. Charles is kind of quiet. Even Yuki's kind of quiet in his own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carlos he's not as big a personality as Danny Rick, but he's like he's just got that big, bold, like
He's got the suave
Spaniard voice, and it just carries. And so even his quiet laugh is probably loud.
Sure.
I don't see him being stealthy.
So I think that as long as Valtteri can hide the hair, I think he'll win.
Yeah. Hide the hair. Don't wear the bright frickin' Sauber neon green.
The Nickelodeon goo.
Yeah. Which, by the way, speaking of Valtteri Bottas, did you hear he was not too far from here this week?
No.
He was in Emporia, Kansas, which is not far from Kansas City.
Okay.
He raced a bicycle race.
What?
108 miles on bike.
Dang,
5,000 foot elevation gain, averaging 20 mile an hour, and he did it in just short of 5.5 hours.
But race car drivers aren't athletes. It's real sweat.
It's real sweat. Real athlete sweat.
So yeah, I'm picking Valtteri for hide seek.
I think I'm going to go with you on that. I think Valtteri stands at least a slight better chance, provided he can hide the hair.
Yeah, yeah. The hair's the biggest handicap for him, but if he can hide the hair, I think he's good to go.
Yeah, agreed. So,
yeah.
Well, that'll do it for driver versus driver.
Always fun.
Always a fun one. Yeah. Any say Browns?
No. We got another race coming up. Canada.
Yep, Canada coming up. I think you and I are probably going to do a little bit of sim racing here in the next week or two on F124. Definitely put it through its paces.
Yeah.
So be following us on YouTube and Twitch if you aren't already. Hopefully get that up and running. We did our Monaco race. Neither of us finished.
No, neither of us finished. When did you crash out? Lap 20?
18. Lap 18.
Okay, I was like 50 something.
Yeah.
I think.
You definitely got further than I did. But
which is just a testament to how good these drivers are in real life.
Yes, and how bad we are with just controllers. So
we all got to start somewhere.
The skill gap is wide.
Yes. It's thick.
It's thick. But yeah, so we'll be doing that. It's coming up. I think we should also, I was thinking about this today, actually. We need to do some live stream of some Make Way, too. Our favorite non-serious racing game.
Yeah, for those who have not heard, I didn't know what Make Way was until you told me about it. But Make Way is basically ultimate chicken horse, but racing. It's top-down racing where every player contributes a segment of track, and you're basically building the track as you go. There's power-ups, Mario Kart style. There's obstacles. So not serious, but
not serious at all.
But still very enjoyable.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with it, just goofing around when we weren't feeling serious racing, or just too tired,
or both.
It's a good distraction. It's good change of pace. But yeah, we'll definitely should live stream some of that the next time we play some.
Yeah,
it's a fun one, definitely unique. So
yeah, I think we are good to go, sir.
I think we are. So I think that'll round it out for this one. Yeah, just a reminder to follow us on all social media and YouTube. Where are we at? We are on YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Pandora.
You name it, we're on it.
We're out there somewhere. You will find us in the interwebs somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just remember to like, subscribe there. Send us a note if there's anything you want to hear us discuss, talk about, go over, or try. We're willing to try just about anything as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or causes one of us to lose a limb.
The
Or
limb
limbs.
can be debated about, but yes.
But yeah, I think that'll round it out. So yeah, thank you all for listening. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Matt.
We look forward to catching you on the next one after the Canada Grand Prix. And until then, yeah, we'll catch you all on the flip side. Pit strategy complete.